Silence can be the noisiest thing on a planet, because when you're quiet, this vibrates at such a high frequency. It's unbelievable. You're a vibrating machine, and you feel yourself, back where you were saying, going crazy. But you know what? It's you. And the going crazy part is just something that hasn't been defined by your culture. Don't worry about how you're feeling, just feel it. You didn't go to school for silence. You didn't go to school for feeling your emotions. So there's so much in there that just wants to come out. And just let it, just as long as it's not hurting anybody else or yourself, experience it, let it come out. And if you have time, if you have an hour, if you have a minute before you go into a party in a car, just feel yourself, allow the silence to be loud. Right. If you feel like crap, there's nothing wrong with it. Just feel it. If you feel great, there's nothing wrong with it. If you feel like shooting somebody, there's nothing wrong with the feeling and the thought. Observe it, feel it fully. Don't actually go out and do these actions.
Right.
But feeling these actions, when you shove the silence down and not willing to look at it, it is in your body. The more you shove it down, the more it comes out through your tone when you speak and through your body language when you move, called passive aggressive. But when you're able to feel the silence and the full vibration of everything, when you're able to hear these thoughts, happy or sad, you will, contrary to, it's a reverse way of thinking of it, but you will be better. You will be, not better, but you will be more whole. You will come out more. Before, I want to amplify what you said before. Not expressing and not feeling something, not allowing it to come out, maybe the beginning of illness. That actually might be the definition of illness, is not allowing something to flow through your body. If Kunin wants to say something if he wants to say something but is not currently saying it, then he's not recognizing something that's in here. This could turn into a tumor by not recognizing it.
Exactly.
And once you recognize it, then he becomes whole, like his literally physical body and his frequency becomes whole, and his energy through his body and around his auric field becomes flowing more, and he becomes a whole person. Like there was an indigenous culture that you reminded me of. That every time they get sick, he goes into the center of the tribe, and the tribe says, "What aren't you acknowledging? What aren't you saying?" And that person says everything. Without inhibition, without fear, without punishment. It's just speaking out. Without attacking anybody, without attacking oneself. Just speaking out what's all these blocks. All these things, that all these push down ideas and thoughts and feelings that we don't want to say, and then that person gets better. It's like finding something to do during the silence, during the uncomfortableness. Because when there's silence, that gives this a chance to speak. And God forbid we hear what this is, like waiting online at the grocery store. Oh my God, what do I do? This thing is coming up. Let me find something to do, get a magazine. I'm home alone. Oh my God, there's nothing to do. What am I gonna do? Let me go on the internet. It's Friday night, it's Saturday night. I'm home. Oh my God, I need to go out because I don't want to check in what's going on here. Is that what we're talking about? It's the silence. And so what do we do when the silence comes up? It's what do we do? Some of the best nights I've ever had was when I go home, terrified to go home because I know I'm going to be alone in silence. And what I do is I see everything that's going on here, and it's incredibly painful. And sometimes I write down everything that's going on in here. I hurt here, I hurt here, I hurt here, and it's really painful. And then after 2 hours of that, the next 2 hours is the most incredible time of my life, because all of that is done, and I just get to be me. I get to feel me.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, thank God that this person said no to going out. Thank God that I didn't go out here, because I get to spend time with the most important person in the world, which is yourself. The key to the universe is first step, there's silence, and then the second one is to feel what wants to come up in here during the silence, and then to not just feel it, to just fully feel it, to just, instead of pushing it down, to just fully feel it, and if you have the time, let it go all over your body, and to just kind of dive into it head first.
If I may just offer a quick recap about what we were talking about, and I'll start it off and maybe you guys can add to it. We're talking about silence, but we're talking about silence as a practice. Silence as a practice is allowing myself to hear what's going on inside me, allowing things to come up, my thoughts, and especially my emotional reactions to them. Right. And if I was practicing silence for the first time, I think that the biggest lesson that I would want to get out of it first starting off is that when I let myself feel my emotions, okay, and I don't try to explain them, I don't try to judge them, I don't try to fix them. I forget about the idea that I'm wrong for feeling this, or it's a runaway train and it's going to kill me or whatever, or I need to figure it out, or what do I do about this? If I let that all go and just go, this is what this feels like. And if I teach myself, if I really get the lesson that no matter how much I allow myself to feel this, my head is actually never going to pop. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to fall apart. I'm not going to melt. It's a little bit scary doing it at first, but it's only because I didn't know that I could do this. But the reality is, when I let myself feel exactly what it is that I was trying to avoid and just let myself feel it and stop talking to myself about it, I'm okay. I'm okay when it's done. And the beauty of that lesson, of me teaching myself that lesson, is I no longer have to live in fear of my emotions.
And by the way, I like that you always bring the conversation back to, you're not wrong for feeling what you feel. There's nothing wrong with you.
There's nothing wrong with us, but there might be something wrong with you.
Oh, right. I never thought about that. Thanks. You've given me a lot to think about.
Yes. The reflection of me that I see in you doesn't seem right. So
yeah, you're gonna process that in your quiet time, right?
Yeah.
And what's really important about what you just said is you must fully experience your emotions. You can't stuff them down. That is the beginning of illness. When you squelch these feelings and these emotions, you are just building up all this anger, and from that, disease is born.
Yeah,
It's like what you said before in a previous interview. It's energy in motion. If you squelch all these feelings and stuff like that, that's blocked energy. You have to let the emotion out through in a safe environment.
Yeah, I can relate. Sorry, but I just wanted to say quickly, I can relate to that. For example, recently I've noticed every time I have difficulty expressing something to somebody and I'm not expressing it, something happens to my throat. I have a sore throat, or like I have a slightly. And this happens more and more quickly for me as I awaken more and more.
Because you know, right, in Chinese system, throat chakra is about expression.
Exactly, yeah.
Silence for me, I didn't get it at first. It just seemed, boring and kind of like, okay, what's the big deal? This sucks. It's like music or a party, but less. So I didn't really, for a long time, for a good part of my life, I didn't value it. I didn't appreciate it. And it's funny because looking back on that, I see now that it's not that I didn't value it, it's that I was actually afraid of it. I didn't know that I was, but there was definitely a part of me that wanted to keep going, that wanted to go to the next thing, be occupied with the next thing, because if I'm not, if it's just nothing to hear, nothing to look at, and I'm by myself, then after a while, thoughts are going to start creeping in, painful thoughts. Life would just really start to suck at that point. And now what I recognize is that only when I allow myself to be still and to be silent and let the potentially painful thought or potentially painful emotion come up, only then do I have the opportunity to really face it, to really accept that I feel the way I do about whatever it is that I'm thinking about. And that's a healing process. And the only access that I have to that healing process is by being okay with silence. And it was, it wasn't like this kind of deathly fear of silence. I feel like at the time I was just being a kid or just being in my 20s or whatever, and going, okay, so what are we going to do now? Or, on to the next thing. But there was definitely something worse than I wanted to admit about the feeling of boredom, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't know, maybe you've experienced this, that, nothing to do, nowhere to go, and maybe there's this kind of feeling of boredom, but there's something about that boredom that I don't want to fall too deeply into.
Yeah.
And I think that all that stuff was underneath the boredom, was the not wanting to think about the things that part of me wants to think about, because I wouldn't know how to handle the pain that comes up. I would say turn everything off, go and sit or lay on your bed and feel your heart.
I like that. That really works.
Easy.
Very easy to do. And part of the silencing process is to, if you do find yourself having these thoughts come up, it's not to say, hey, I'm thinking, I gotta stop thinking. Just come back to silence. Just take a deep breath, come back to silence in your mind. And often what I do is I imagine myself as a mountain, and the thoughts are clouds passing over the mountain. And the clouds do not disrupt the mountain. The clouds pass, silence returns, and I move forward.
The most powerful technique that I know of today is to get in touch with yourself, to get in touch with silence, is focus on the breath. We have automatic breathing, but we're not aware of the breath, so just become aware of the breath. The first time I did this exercise, I got up to 6 breaths before my mind started wandering. And if your mind starts wandering, no problem, just start the count over again, and just see how high you could get. 1, 2. I think I'm up to 23, to be honest with you, without a thought coming in, and I've been doing it for months. It sounds so simple, it's extremely powerful.
So for me, in addition to what everybody said, which is awesome, for me a mantra works, and lately the mantra now here works, which is I breathe in and say the word now, and breathe out and say the word here, which serves 2 purposes. Because the mantra silences the mind, because anything works really. Like I can say like Coke, 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 or be silent, be silent, be silent. But now here is great because it serves a second purpose, which is to get really, really, really present.
I actually wanted to amplify what you two guys said, which was in the beginning stages of Zen meditation, one of the first things they do is they teach you that that your breath is sort of like the handrails of the awakening process, and by focusing on the breath, it's an easy reference point and something that your mind can grasp onto, because your mind is constantly searching for stimulation. So by grasping onto and holding very gently the process of breathing in and out, and by using the technique that which you mentioned, which is to say a simple mantra like, right here, right now, I am focused and centered, and breathing that in, and using a simple visualization like the mountain and the clouds. Using all 3 of those things together can really provide some tremendous breakthroughs in the areas of silence.
Yeah, and as you were talking, I thought about the second technique which I've used, which is as I move about my day, as I have conversations, but also alone when I do a movement practice to ask myself the question, I'm aware of this sensation, this movement, this breath, but who is aware of the awareness? And to really feel into the answer to that question. So thank you so much. This has been the segment on ways to get silence, embody silence, so that you can live a better, more effective life and be the change you want to see in the room and in your life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's true. Growing up, we were never taught to deal with our feelings or our emotions. We had to figure it out on our own. So I had to become my own school for my own thoughts, my own behaviors, my own emotions. If you're going through something, if you have questions on the video that you've just seen, if you're going through something fierce inside, sadness, fear, guilt, depression, if you're going through drama outside in your life, and you need somebody to talk to, give me a call. I'm here to help you. My name is Sayad.